There's a lot going on here in Sri Lanka and definitely around the world as well. To make sure that you stay updated with the very latest, welcome to Primetime News right here on TV1. Bringing you the news from the news desk, I am Sandro Satyajit.
And I'm Peruni Ratna. Here's a look at your top stories for tonight.
Tear gas fired at Peradeniya University students' protest. Minister Vijaydas reveals how information on a possible terror attack in Colombo was received.
වේගය අඩු වුණ ගමන් මේ පොලිස් නිලධාරියට ලිපියක් දුන්නා. මම ඒ ලිපිය මාළඟ තියෙනවා ඒකේ පිටපත. මේ පොලිස් නිලධාරියට ලියුමක් දීලා ඔහුට කියලා තියෙනවා මේ ලිපිය මට ලැබෙන්න සලස්සන්න.
President appoints committee of inquiry headed by former Chief Justice to issue recommendations on revising election laws, media regulations and limiting the registration of political parties. Crafty attempts underway to postpone elections. Constitution must be amended to change the electoral system, says the opposition.
ඒතර ඒවා වෙනස් කරනවා නම් ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව වෙනස් කරනවා.
දිනන්න බැරි නිසානේ දිනන්න පුළුවන් ඕක වෙනස් කරනවද?
Government will make several amendments to the online safety bill. Attorney General informs the Supreme Court. Sri Lankan President and Pakistan's Prime Minister to issue joint statement on the situation in Gaza. Heavy rain to continue in several provinces, including the western and southern province.
On to your lead story now. This evening, the police fired tear gas at a protest march organized by the students of the University of Peradeniya today.
Police fired tear gas at a protest march that was heading from the Peradeniya University towards Kandy, close to the Peradeniya rest house. The protest march was organized against the privatization of education, the online safety bill, oppressive action taken by the government and demanding solutions to the issues of university students.
අපි කාටද කියන්නේ පොලිසියෙන් මෙහෙම ගහනකොට අපි දැනුම් දෙන්න ඕන පොලිසියට නම් මේගොල්ලෝ මේ විදිහට කරනකොට මේ පොඩි ළමයි ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන වෙන වැඩකට ළමයින්ට මැරෙන්න වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
Minister of Justice Vijaydas Rajapaksa replied to a question raised by opposition leader Sajith Premadasa in Parliament today regarding an article published on newspapers recently of another possible attack on several landmarks in Colombo.
Now, according to the minister, an inmate of the Pallakale prison who is being held with a group of suspects arrested over the Easter attacks had provided the information.
ගිය අගෝස්තු මාසේ 26 වෙනිදා
On the 26th of August, a sub-inspector attached to the Katugastara police station in Kandy was on duty at the Thannikumara roadblock. A bus from the prisons department in Pallakale was passing by. As it was passing by, when the bus reduced its speed, the sub-inspector had been handed a letter. I have a copy of it. He had been told to make sure that I got the letter. They had even told my name. The police officer called me that day. I told him to send the letter via WhatsApp before sending it through post. It was stated in the letter that there were 5 inmates who were associated with the Easter Sunday attacks and that they had held several discussions. The letter also said that there were plans to attack several landmarks such as the Parliament and the Gangarama Temple. The moment I received the letter, I gave all the details about it to the Inspector General of Police, the head of the Intelligence Division and the Commissioner General of Prisons. Accordingly, I instructed the Commissioner General of Prisons to conduct an impartial investigation and survey this immediately from within the prison. He is currently working on it. The Inspector General of Police was informed to conduct an investigation into this matter. At the same time, the head of the Intelligence Department was also asked to conduct an investigation. There have been several disputes between the person who gave this information and the 5 inmates who are in prison in connection with the Easter attacks. Therefore, attention was paid to whether the information in the letter is true or if it had been written out of spite. However, as we have bad experiences in the past, we cannot afford to take any risks. Therefore, we gave clear instructions to the police and the country's intelligence to look into the matter and take necessary measures. I also saw that this suspect had made a statement 2 to 3 days ago at the Anuradhapura Magistrates Court. After hearing that statement, the judge had reserved some doubts. The magistrate had also ordered a full investigation into his statements. We will get to know through these investigations if there is any truth to the inmate's statements or not.
ආරක්ෂකංශ විසින් අපිට හෙළිදරව් කරන්නට ඕන.
Who will be Sri Lanka's next Inspector General of Police? The matter was discussed in Parliament today. Parliamentarian Nimal Lanza, representing the ruling party, said that the Constitutional Council has not approved the President's proposal to make a temporary appointment to the post of IGP.
The President is not in the country. The Minister in charge of the police is also not in the country. As far as I know, there is a gap of 7, 8 or 9 years between the 3 vying for the post of IGP. If all 3 of them have the same problem, this should be solved through Parliament. How can a country run without an IGP? Who is in charge of the police today? Who can be held accountable for the 22 million citizens in this country? Who would be responsible if something like the Easter attacks take place today? I am asking this question from anyone in the ruling party who is capable of giving a clear answer. This is a question about the IGP of the country.
The President is the Defence Minister of our country. No matter where he is in the world, there is still a president in our country. There are several security matters that require instructions.
ජනාධිපතිතුමායි එතුමායි වෙච්ච සංවාදයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒක එතුමායි වෙනම කතාවක්. මෙතන ඇවිල්ලා ජනාධිපතිතුමා නැති වෙලා ආවේ තමුන්නාංශ ආගන්න මං කියන දේ. තමුන්නාංශ කතා කරද්දී අපි නිකන් හිටියානේ. ඒ නිසා ඔයා කටවාගෙන ඉන්නකො මගේ කතාව කතා කරන්න දෙන්න. ඔයා කවුද මට ඔයා කතානායකද? ඔයා කතානායකද මට කතා කරන්න දෙන්න නැතු ඉන්න. ඔයා කතානායකද? මෙයාව පොඩ්ඩක් පාලනය කරන්න ගරු කතානායකතුමනි. දුන්නනේ අවස්ථාව. ජනාධිපතිතුමා తాවකාලිකව පොලිස්පතිතුමා.
The President has told the Constitutional Council to temporarily appoint the Inspector General of Police. The Constitutional Council has pointed out that there is a legal barrier to do so and has refused to carry out the procedure. Then the President has another chance to send the names to the Constitutional Council. But now the President is in China for a very important conference. His aim is to convince foreign investors to invest in Sri Lanka and the debt restructuring process. Some parliamentarians act as if the President's visit to China is an unimportant one. Please remove the parliamentarians who are accusing the President like this in his absence.
Prime Minister, at least you should tell us why the IGP is not being appointed. We need an answer related to the question asked, not anything else. They are not doing anything for now, so that they can wait until the necessary background is prepared to appoint a person of their choice as the Inspector General of Police. They are delaying the process. Please do not be so weak to the point where you cannot even appoint an IGP. We are disappointed that this government cannot even appoint an IGP. A police investigation has been launched into a theft which occurred at the Halstop Magistrates Court in Colombo.
Police spokesperson SSP Nihal Thalduwa said preliminary investigations confirmed that the evidence room of the court had been broken into during the night on the day before yesterday. Police said the court had not yet informed if any case items in the room were stolen. A probe into the matter has commenced following a complaint received by the Keselwatha police yesterday. 2 fingerprints of the person who entered the evidence room were uncovered during the preliminary investigations. Police said that this evidence room was broken into earlier on the 6th of October as well.
The President has appointed a commission of inquiry under the chairmanship of former Chief Justice Prasad Depp to study and recommend the amendments to the election laws in the country.
The commission appointed by the President is chaired by former Chief Justice Prasad Depp and has been tasked with proposing changes to the voting system as well as addressing issues such as media regulations and new laws governing the registration of political parties. The commission includes 8 commissioners: Sundaram Arumainayagam, Senanayaka Alisandra, President's Counsel Nalin Abesekara, Navin Senaratna, Mohammed Salim, Sagarika Delgoda, Nimalka Fernando, Deepani Samantha Rodrigo. The President has outlined various responsibilities for this commission, including reviewing of all existing election laws and regulations and recommending amendments, enhancing representation of women and youth, reducing the time between the declaration of an election and the release of results, introducing an electronic voting system, creating a system for Sri Lankans living abroad to vote, allowing individuals to compete in both provincial council and parliamentary elections, extending postal voting to non-public sector employees, implementing a mixed system of proportional and singular voting, making recommendations for regulating how political parties and independent groups use the media, introducing a code of conduct for party members in political parties and public affairs, strengthening laws governing the registration of political parties. The Commission is expected to present its recommendations to the President within 6 months, considering these points.
The President is establishing a commission of inquiry to propose changes to the voting system despite a proposal already submitted by Justice Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa to the Cabinet regarding this matter. Political party representatives were invited for discussion at the Parliament complex, chaired by the Prime Minister in this regard earlier today. However, the main opposition party, the Samagi Jana Balawega, declined to participate. The opposition leader argued in Parliament that the government lacks the mandate from the people to amend the electoral system.
Let's change the electoral system, but first allow the mandate to be shown. We cannot allow the changes in electoral systems to violate the franchise of the people. We, the Samagi Jana Balawega, will not participate in the discussion that you have invited us for. If you make a statement in good faith, we will implement all these electoral reforms after the presidential election, the general election, the provincial council election, and then the local government election too. The Election Commission has requested to provide the remaining funds for the upcoming work of the local government election. Will the government provide the funds now?
පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණේ ඉදිරි වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්න. දැන් රජයේ සල්ලි දෙනවද? මම ආරාධනය කරනවා විපක්ෂ නායකතුමාට.
I invite you, the leader of the opposition, to make these political changes with us, but we cannot do so by being skeptical about these things, because the changes were also discussed in the 20th and 21st amendments brought to this parliament earlier. Therefore, we present this in good faith and without any other intention. The country is waiting for a change in the electoral system.
භාජනය කරයි කියලා. පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණයක් පැවැත්වීම
The basic rights of the people in this country are being violated by not providing the provisions that should be given to hold a local government election. How can you talk about good faith? Do not spew nonsense about good faith.
ක්‍රමේ වෙනස් කරමු. අපි ඡන්ද වලින් පස්සේ ජනවරණයෙන් පස්සේ
මේ මැරිලා ඉපදිලා නැහැ රට බං.
The local government elections were announced when the country was in a state of bankruptcy. You can't hold a vote without funds. We have not suspended the election. Members of the ruling party as well as members of the opposition came to my parliamentary committee and demanded to suspend the election.
පක්ෂ මන්ත්‍රීලාත් ඇවිල්ලා ඉල්ලීම් කරා.
මේ කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාව ඉදිරිපත් කළේ මම.
I submitted this cabinet paper. I take responsibility for it. Good faith on this matter is now being questioned. According to that, Dinesh Gunawardena was appointed as its chairman, and after 12 years of investigations, he submitted a report accordingly. The members of the opposition who are in the SJB today approved this from the United National Party. You talk about system change, but you kick it away when the system change does come.
සිස්ටම් චේන්ජ් ගැන කතා කරනවා සිස්ටම් චේන්ජ් එක එනකොට පයින් ගන්නවා. විධායක ජනාධිපති ක්‍රමය ආවුති කරන්න.
Because this government cannot win, you are attempting to abolish the executive presidency and change the parliamentary system. It's because you can't win. Would you change it if you could win? Hold the local government election to show good faith, that is all. No need for all of this. If you come to the courts and say you are ready to provide funds, the Supreme Court will allow the election to take place. I don't know what forces were in play for this. The media gave much coverage saying that the executive presidency will be abolished through this. We have no such intention. Who said so?
They
are trying to change the parliamentary election system. After that, they are ready to bring a constitutional amendment with the position of an executive prime minister in parliament. The people of this country do not agree with this. We are not ready to accept an executive prime minister in place of an executive president. This is a desperate and cunning attempt to flee from the electoral system in.
Speaking during the Pathikoda program aired on our sister channel Sirsa TV, Professor J.L. Pires pointed out that there is no room in the law to change the electoral system without amending the constitution.
There is something important in the law regarding parliamentary elections. That means, unlike local government elections and provincial council elections, parliamentary elections are part of the constitution. The 14th chapter of the constitution mentions how to appoint the MPs from the respective districts according to the type of elections, and if they are to be changed, the constitution should be changed. It also needs a 2/3 majority in parliament. That means 150 out of 225 MPs must vote in favor of it. Otherwise, it cannot be passed.
The
Attorney General informed the Supreme Court today that the government has announced amendments will be added to the online safety bill, which gave rise to much controversy recently.
Now, the Attorney General informed the Supreme Court on the matter when petitions challenging the bill were taken up for examination today.
The examination of a total of 45 petitions filed by several factions, including the Lawyers Collective, took place today before a 3-judge bench comprising of Justices Priyantha Jayawardena, Shiran Gunaratna and Achala Vengapulli. Prior to the hearing of the petitions, Additional Solicitor General President's Counsel Viraj Dayaratna, representing the Attorney General, announced that further amendments will be made to the bill. A key matter included in the amendments was limiting the President's power to appoint commissioners to the Online Safety Commission and empowering the Constitutional Council to approve or reject the names nominated by the President. Moreover, according to the new amendments, if the Constitutional Council rejects a member proposed by the President to the Online Safety Commission, the President must recommend a fresh member. The Additional Solicitor General elaborated facts to the Supreme Court for around 3 hours. Representing the petitioners, President's Counsel Dr. Jayampathy Vikramaratne pointed out that the proposed online safety bill would bring about catastrophic consequences to the general public. President's Counsel M.A. Sumanthiran, representing the Asia Internet Coalition, pointed out that Global Cooperation suspended operations in Pakistan owing to a similar piece of legislation being introduced.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe attended the opening ceremony of the 3rd Belt and Road Initiative Forum today. Now, the forum is being held to mark the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative.
Speaking at the event, Chinese President Xi Jinping unveiled a set of comprehensive policies aligned with the Belt and Road Initiative, reflecting its commitment to fostering global partnerships.
Our achievements in the past decade are truly remarkable, and there is so much we can draw from them. We have learned that humankind is a community with a shared future. China can only do well when the world is doing well. When China does well, the world will get even better. China has become a main trading partner of more than 140 countries and territories and a primary source of investment for more countries. Both Chinese investment overseas and foreign investment in China has boosted friendship, cooperation, confidence and hope. Let us deepen Belt and Road international cooperation and bring Belt and Road cooperation to a new stage of higher quality and higher level development. Let us advance modernization of all countries, build an open, inclusive and interconnected world for common development and jointly build a community with a shared future for mankind.
In a rare international appearance since the war in Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin also addressed a live audience at the 3rd Belt and Road Forum.
десятилетия этой выдвинутой...
Moscow is working with foreign partners to also build railway routes from central Siberia south towards China, Mongolia and other ports of the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Russia is the biggest country in the world. That is why one connectivity of all the partners is relevant for the relations between the partners. The One Belt, One Road initiative is consistent with Russian ideas to create an integration circuit where freedom of trade, investment and labor would be fully ensured.
Один пояс, один путь логично вписывается.
Other speakers at the event included Indonesian President Joko Widodo, Kazakhstan President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, Argentine President Alberto Fernandez, and the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Representatives from over 140 countries and 30-plus international organizations attended the forum. In 2013, Xi unveiled his proposal to jointly build a Silk Road economic belt and a 21st century maritime Silk Road, dubbed the Belt and Road Initiative. Over 3,000 BRI cooperation projects have been launched in the past decade, involving close to $1 trillion of investment. Many of these projects, such as railways, bridges and pipelines, have helped build an infrastructure network that connects sub-regions in Asia as well as the continents of Asia, Europe and Africa. President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Pakistani Prime Minister Anwarul Haq Kakar have reached a consensus to issue a joint statement reflecting their common stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. According to the President's media division, both the state leaders discussed the critical developments unfolding in the Gaza Strip.
Meanwhile, on to some news overseas now. US President Joe Biden arrived in Israel earlier today to meet Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
US President Joe Biden, in a high-stakes wartime visit to Israel, met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today as Gaza reeled from a deadly hospital blast. In his first public remarks on the hospital bombing, Biden explicitly offered Israel and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu his support.
Terrorist group Hamas has slaughtered, as has been pointed out, 1,300 people. And there's not hyperbole to suggest slaughtered, including 31 Americans. And they've taken scores of people hostage, including children. Atrocities that make ISIS look somewhat irrational. Americans are grieving with it, really are. And Americans are worried. Israel, as they respond to these attacks, it seems to me that have to continue to ensure that you have what you need to defend yourselves. And we're going to make sure that occurs, as you know. And we have to also bear in mind that Hamas does not represent all the Palestinian people. I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you.
The two leaders later met with the Emergency War Cabinet, with Biden vowing to support Israel to prevent more tragedy. Yesterday, Biden's planned visit to Jordan to meet Arab leaders was cancelled by the Jordanians amid outrage over an explosion at the Gaza hospital. White House spokesperson John Kirby said it was a mutual decision to cancel the Jordan trip. Hundreds of Palestinians were killed in the explosion at a Gaza City hospital yesterday. Officials said up to 4,000 people were sheltering in the Al Ahli Arabi Baptist Hospital when the bomb struck. Palestinian Authority President Abbas called it an act of genocide and declared 3 days of mourning. Gaza blamed an Israeli airstrike for the incident, while the Israeli military, however, said the hospital had been hit in an attempted missile strike by the Gaza-based militant group Islamic Jihad. Palestine said the number killed in Gaza since the Israeli-Palestinian conflict began 11 days ago has risen to 3,300, while 13,000 have been injured. Meanwhile, at least 1,400 Israelis have been killed in the conflict. The Sri Lankan embassy in Israel said arrangements are being made to bring the remains of Anula Ratnayaka Jayatilaka, who lost her life in the ongoing conflict. The Sri Lankan ambassador to Israel, Nimal Bandara, posted what he called a heart-wrenching note sent to him by the daughter of Anula Ratnayaka Jayatilaka.
I was 16 years old when my mother left to Israel. During the last years, I had the chance to spend only 90 days with my mother. I have not spent this many days without speaking to her. Sir, if you find my mother, tell her that I was waiting for her.
The Israeli police will hand over the remains over to us today or tomorrow. The venerable Pharaoh of the temple in Israel will conduct religious observances before handing over the remains to the authorities to send it to Sri Lanka.
The Sri Lankan ambassador in Israel said they are yet to receive information on another Sri Lankan national, Yatavara Bandara, who was also reported missing.
We are continuing to locate the missing Sri Lankan. The Hamas militant group has announced that it will release a name list of the civilians under their custody. We will continue to keep an eye on this.
Now back to local news. The Indian naval ship Iravat arrived at the port of Colombo on a formal visit this morning.
The visiting Indian naval ship INS Iravat was welcomed by the Sri Lankan Navy in compliance with naval traditions. INS Iravat is manned by a crew of 170. The ship is set to depart the country tomorrow. The controversial Chinese research and survey vessel Xi'an-6, which has drawn much of India's attention, is carrying out research activities in the Indian Ocean. The ship was sailing about 531 nautical miles away from Sri Lanka this afternoon. The ship was scheduled to dock at the country's port on the 25th of October, but its arrival was delayed following a request made by Sri Lanka.
We take a look at your weather now. The Met Department announced once again that heavy rains above 100 millimeters are expected in many areas of the country. We can expect the rainy weather to continue tonight and tomorrow. The central, Sabaragamuwa, western, northwestern, Uva and southern provinces of the island are to be affected most. There is still a possibility of heavy rains exceeding 100 millimeters in some places in those areas. In particular, there is a possibility of heavy rains over a short period of time. People living in urban areas and especially people living close to rivers and canals should be mindful because there is a possibility of an immediate rise in water levels.
Flash floods were reported from several areas around the island. The Ampegama junction in Galle was completely inundated. Our correspondent said that the Alpitia Galle and Baddegama Galle roads were inundated due to this. Residents of the area protested and pointed out that local authorities have not maintained the drainage system and that is the reason for this situation.
අවුරුද්දට 8 වෙනි පාර තමයි මේ ජලයෙන් යට වෙන පාර සම්පූර්ණයෙන් පල්ලෙහා වෙල් අනවසරෙන් ගොඩ කරලා ඒවයි මේ වතුර පාර පද්ධතිය සම්පූර්ණයෙන් අවහිර කරලා තියෙනවා.
Several roads including the Hiribura Abdul Wahab Mawata Pettigalawatta crossroad and the Galle Baddegama road were inundated. The Galle Alpitia main road has been submerged near Valibokwa in Alutwala. Many low-lying areas and paddy fields were inundated. Our correspondent said that the Matara Mirissa, Tal Aramba, Kamburugamuwa, Tihagoda, Hakmana and Dikwal areas were experiencing heavy rainfall since this morning. The Godagama Sultanagoda road and several byroads in Hittatia were also inundated. Meanwhile, water levels of the Kirama Oya have also increased. By this evening, the area around the Ovilana shoe bridge on the Deyandara Mulatiana road was inundated. After the heavy flood situation, water accumulated in low-lying areas, houses and byroads in Hannagala, Piyaddagoda, Ambagahavela and Talgahagoda and other neighbouring areas still remain. Residents say that it is not safe for them to leave their houses due to crocodiles roaming the area.
ගංගාතොරෙන් පස්සේ ආවු කිඹුල්ලු මේ තැන්තැන්වල වෙලායි හැංගිලා මිනිස්සුන් දඩයම් කරන්න බල්ලෝ දඩයම් කරන්න වගේ තමයි ඉන්නේ. බල්ලෝ ගොඩ ඒ ඔක්කොම බල්ලෝ නැහැ දැන්. බල්ලෝ නැහැ.
According to our correspondents, the sluice gates of the Kattakadua reservoir have been opened as a result of heavy rains experienced in Hambantota. Residents of Tanalanda in Ambalantota have been suffering for 20 days due to the level of water accumulated not reducing. 3 houses have been damaged after several mounds of earth collapsed and water flowed to low-lying lands after the Karyaka Canal in Balumgala, Valimada overflowed. The road from Concordia in Nuwara to Ragala was also blocked this morning due to a landslide. According to our correspondent, roads leading to many villages have been blocked due to the overflow of the Sandanamadu River in Sittandi, Batiklo.
The Government Medical Officers Association revealed today that the Ministry of Health had carried out an emergency purchase of human immunoglobulin when there were sufficient stocks of human immunoglobulin in the country.
The Government Medical Officers Association convened a media briefing today and made several revelations against a backdrop where no one has been held accountable yet for the supply of 22,500 vials of human immunoglobulin brought into Sri Lanka without any legal permission and using forged documents.
The letter authorizing the importation of this drug and a copy of the letter will be forwarded to the NMRA. The NMRA cannot say that they were unaware of it. We as citizens of Sri Lanka cannot accept it if these people who have been handling matters of this sort for years say that they are unaware of it. The question we have is, what were the contents of the vials that were given to the patients? How many incidents of this nature may have occurred? The President also cannot avoid this matter. The President is linked to the process of appointment of ministry secretaries. The President also holds responsibility in this case to a certain extent. If the lives of so many people are devalued like this, the Ministry of Health should take corrective measures in this regard. It is an emergency purchase that has been carried out. Was there a necessity to carry out this emergency purchase? This additional secretary attached to the Ministry of Health says that although the use of the drug has been put on hold, there are sufficient stocks of human immunoglobulin within the country. If so, why was this drug imported as an emergency purchase?
On to some other news now. An initiative took place to donate houses to 4 homeless families in Askiria, Kandy today.
The 4 houses for the families were constructed with the financial support of the Karaka Sangha Sabha of the Askiri Mahavihara, and the construction was supported by the 11th Division of the Sri Lanka Army. This initiative was commenced at the advice of the Mahanayaka of the Askiri chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Jnanaratana Thera. Government officials, officials from the forces, officials from the Mahaveli Authority and Housing Development Authority were present at this event.
With the people.
A public consultation program regarding the proposed increase in electricity tariffs took place in Colombo today.
The public consultation program on the proposed increase in electricity tariffs was organized by the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka and included the participation of various stakeholders such as Ceylon Electricity Board, electricity users associations, civil organizations, politicians and others. During the consultation, Additional General Manager of the CEB, Hemantha Ranasinghe, emphasized the need for a 17% tariff increase in the current situation. On the other hand, the Secretary of the Electricity Users Association, Sanjeev Vidamik, argued against any tariff increase at this time. Meanwhile, former Minister of Power and Energy Partali Champika Ranavika said the existing shortcomings of the Electricity Board should not be a burden to the people.
The inaugural International Coaching Conference, centering the theme Coaching for Human Connectedness, a call for meaningful conversations, commenced in Colombo yesterday. The International Coaching Federation is a leading global organization for coaches and coaching. Founded in 1995, ICF currently boasts over 50,000 members across 150 countries. The focus of the International Coaching Conference Sri Lanka 2023 aims to explore people-centric solutions to reimagine human connectedness. The 3-day event concluding tomorrow will feature multiple segments from panel discussions to learning circles, a method to allow participants to discuss key takeaways and reflections from the sessions. It will also include speeches from professional ICF coaches and renowned corporate leaders in Sri Lanka.
official ICC Men's Cricket World Cup India 2023.
The ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 encounter between Afghanistan and New Zealand got underway at the M.A. Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai, India today. New Zealand beat Afghanistan by 149 runs. Cricket fans can watch and listen to all the action of the World Cup via the MTV NBC networks, the official local broadcast rights holder of the tournament. The matches are being streamed live on www.sirisatv.lk. And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. For the News First team, I'm Karuna Ratna.
And I'm Sandro Satyajit. Do stay with TV1 as our flagship political talk show, Face the Nation, comes up in just a short while. Good night.